Good evening,
Good evening.
children. We have Shyamala ma'am here. She'll be taking up geography today. Shyamala ma'am, please start.
Yeah. Good evening, Shailja. And good evening, all the students. Children, I couldn't take 2 classes because I was held up with my own school work. So much of work I had, so I missed it. Actually, I felt very bad. 2 weeks gap is too much. 1 week is okay, but still, I think the last class we were doing about agriculture. Yeah, I hope you remember, or just I will go through. Just I'll make a recap quickly, and then we'll continue with the lesson. So we started with agriculture, where I said that it is a main occupation of majority of the population and also contributes a lot to the GDP, and also supplies the raw materials to various industries also, and also a very great foreign exchange earner also for us, where we export a number of spices and other things to other countries. Okay, this is what we talked about. And also we talked about the characteristic features. Can anyone quickly tell me what were the characteristic features of Indian agriculture? Anyone? Or should I go about it? So when we say the characteristics, I said it is rain-fed. That is, most of the cultivated area depends upon monsoons, and very few areas are very limited cultivated area depends upon irrigation. So wherever it is dependent upon monsoons, the agriculture is considered to be very poor, not very productive. Whereas wherever irrigation is there, it is considered to be very productive and very prosperous also. Then we also discussed that the average land holding in India is only 1.7 hectares. Why it is so less is that because of the right to property, land inheritance, where the father divides the land among his children, by which the land gets fragmented, and sometimes it is not possible to use even the modern methods of cultivation. Then we also said that because of high population pressure, because India is the second largest population in the country, in order to feed millions of people, the agriculture is highly intensive. What do you mean by highly intensive? Is that we'll be growing about 2 to 3 crops per year. And that is the reason why, that means we overuse the land, we don't give any gap, so that we can constantly cultivate and also try to see that there is no scarcity of food in the country. Second thing we talk about is there are 3 crop seasons. Name them. What are the 3 crop seasons we discussed?
Kharif, Rabi, and
Zayad. Very good. Kharif, Rabi, and Zayad. Kharif starts from June to October. Rabi is from November to March, and Zayad is in the months of April, May, and June, wherever irrigation is possible. Then I said that we also grow more of food crops rather than the cash crops because of the population as such. Our agriculture is mainly traditional subsistence as well as food grain oriented. That means we give more importance to food grains rather than to the commercial crops or the cash crops. Then I already mentioned that there are so many plantation crops which are very important in our country, like tea, sugar cane, coffee, rubber, coconut, tobacco, jute. These are all the important ones which occupy a very pride of place in our country. Though very small area we give, then also they are considered to be providing a very good income to the GDP as such. And then we also discussed about the problems of Indian agriculture. One is uncertainty of rainfall. Just you are seeing that how the monsoon started very well in the month of June, but now again it has backed off. So that is what you call it as uncertainty of rainfall. That is a current example I can give you. So Indian agriculture totally depends on monsoon. It starts actually in the month of June, covers till September. So the entire Kharif season has to be supported by the rainfall. But we have seen that the rainfall has started, but now it has backed out. The monsoon has become weakened. It takes time, we do not know. Next, we talk about soil erosion. Then we talked about fragmentation, where we divide the land according to the property holding and all that. Then we also talked about jumming cultivation or shifting cultivation. I think jumming cultivation is that it is mostly practiced by the tribal people, where they clear a forest land then they cut down all the trees, burn the trees, and the ash which comes out is mixed with the soil, because they feel that if they mix like that, the fertility of the soil will increase. And they start growing the crops. Once they feel that the fertility of the soil is reduced, they abandon the land and again go to another area and repeat the same process. So this is what you call it as shifting cultivation from one area to area, which is a wrong practice, by which that means you are making the entire forest land unproductive. So that is also a wrong mistake for us. Then we have the illiterate farming community, where they do not understand, because they still follow the traditional methods and they don't understand which crops to be grown in which area according to the fertility, according to the climatic conditions, availability of the water. These are all the things by which they have to bring about a change in the cropping patterns, but hardly our farmers understand because most of them are illiterate. Next is we don't have proper manuring, and application of fertilizers is very less in our country, because most of our farmers are very small and marginal farmers who are not very rich. So usually they do not go for fertilizers because they cannot afford it also. Next is we have all outdated implements. As I told you, that they still follow the older methods of cultivation only. Then irrigation facilities are less, banking facilities. You all must have heard about the suicides committed by farmers in various parts of India because they were unable to clear the loan which they have taken from the banks as such. Then also the next one is the lack of proper marketing system, and most of these farmers are not able to get the correct market price. These are the problems we faced. Then we discussed about the types of farming, where I mentioned primitive subsistence farming, then commercial subsistence farming. Then we also talked about something called as plantation agriculture. Do you remember or you don't remember, children? Do you remember the three types of farming I mentioned? Primitive subsistence farming is mainly is usually the old methods. They depend on natural implements, natural manure, and also the rainfall. And they usually cultivate for their house only, not for market purposes. And usually it is the farming, the entire family will be working as the laborer. So this is what you call it as primitive subsistence farming, where they use all the old methods, traditional methods, old methods, and this can be called as the zooming cultivation or the shifting cultivation, which I explained just now. Okay, and then I discussed about the intensive subsistence farming. What is intensive subsistence farming? Is that it is practiced in areas of high population, wherever lots of population is there, where there is a lot of demand for food. It is a lot of pressure on the land also. Land is small, but the amount of cultivation that they carry on that particular land is very high. So it is very intensive, labor intensive. That means they will employ lots of laborers. They also use high doses of pesticides, chemical fertilizers, and all that. And irrigation also is used for. That means the main objective is to achieve higher production. Smaller land, but you try to get more from the smaller piece of land which is available, because the population is very high and there is a lot of pressure on the land also. Then we talked about commercial farming. What is commercial farming? Is that we talk about the use of H5V seeds, that is a high yielding variety seeds. Then you talk about chemical fertilizers. That means everything is modernized. That means they try to increase the production here. So they try to use all modern methods. Okay, and the degree of commercialization also varies from place to place. Like I said, that if you say rice is the commercial crop in Punjab and Haryana, but it is a main crop in southern states. Same way, wheat will be a commercial crop in southern states, and for Punjab, Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, Himachal Pradesh, all these states, it is a subsistence crop. Remember, what is the meaning of subsistence means? Which is considered to be the main important crop or food item of that particular area. Am I clear till here? Yes, ma'am? Yes, students?
Ma'am.
Yeah. Then we talk about plantation. I said, what is plantation? Is that you'll use only one crop. One single crop is grown on a large area, and it is also using large tracts of land, capital intensive. That means you will use HYV seeds, irrigation, fertilizers, modern methods of farming, and also they use a lot of laborers also. And the most important and entire produce is only meant for raw materials to the industries. It is not a subsistence crop. Plantation farming is not subsistence. It is only meant for raw materials. So examples I can give is tea, coffee, rubber, sugarcane, banana. These are all called as the plantation crops as such. Like for example, tea in Assam and North Bengal, coffee, sorry, North Bengal. That means Darjeeling, Assam are very popular for tea. Coffee, can anyone tell me in Karnataka which is the place for coffee?
Aruku.
Hey, I'm asking in Karnataka. Karnataka. Karnataka is Kurg. Kurg district you have. That is the way place where you find the coffee for cultivation over there. And then the most important thing for plantation cultivation is that, because I said everything is produced only for selling in the market. So for selling in the market, you require good transportation. That means you have to take the produce from the farm areas to the market areas. You also require good transport, you require communication, you also require processing industries, marketing. These are all very important if plantation farming has to be successful. Am I clear with all the three? Primitive subsistence, intensive subsistence, and plantation farming clear? Yeah? Okay. Next one we talk about is what are the three crops. Already I mentioned that the Kharif season, Rabi season, and the Zaid season. And what are the important crops of Kharif season? You remember? What students? Everything is wiped out from the minds. Kharif season starts in the month of June, goes on till September. And what are the important crops that are grown in the Kharif season are mainly paddy, maize, jowar, bajra, tur dal, moong dal, arhar, urad, cotton, jute, groundnut. There are so many crops that are grown. Most of the crops are grown during the Kharif season. And I already mentioned that the rice growing areas are Assam, West Bengal, Odisha, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Tamil Nadu. I already mentioned that now Telangana has emerged as the football of India, where they are producing more than what is required. It is bumper crop in Telangana. Now it is slowly becoming the rice bowl of India as such. And Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra also. And I mentioned that in three states of Assam, West Bengal, and Odisha, the crops that are grown are called as three crops of paddy are grown. What are they? As, Aman, Boro. The three names that you give is As, Aman, and Boro. These are the three names that you give. Then you talk about the Rabi season. Rabi season is grown from October to December and harvested in summer. And the most important crops are wheat, barley, peas, gram, mustard. And most of these crops are grown in north and northwestern parts of Punjab, Haryana, Uttarakhand, Himachal Pradesh, Jammu and Kashmir, and Uttar Pradesh. Okay. And the most important thing that is required for the Rabi season is availability of precipitation. That is, precipitation here refers to that usually some amount of rainfall is required in order to get good productivity as such. This will help in the success of the crops, because at that time we will be having cyclones at that particular period of time. We also have northeast monsoon. So now what we have is called as the southwest monsoon. What we get in the next November will be called as a northeast monsoon. They are very important for the Kharif, for the Rabi crops as such. Okay. The next one we talk about is the Zaid season. As I told you that it is usually in the months of April, May, and June. Nowhere you can find this season except where irrigation facilities are available. Only there you will be finding the Zaid season. Am I clear till here? Yes? Yes? Yeah. Chalo. Next we'll talk about is what are the important reforms or what are the changes that have taken place in our country as far as agriculture is concerned is that till 1960s, India was actually importing food from other countries. We were not self-sufficient. So at that time, the government of India wanted to bring about or become self-sufficient in the country. So that is the reason why they brought about a concept called as Green Revolution. What is a green revolution is that it refers to the specific plant improvement, notably the development of high yielding varieties. Now you must have heard about M.S. Swaminathan. He is called as the father of the green revolution who introduced this concept. Actually, Green Revolution was a pilot project which was introduced only in few states, not in entire India. They wanted to increase, they wanted to use, it was like a controlled farming. That means they have taken area in Punjab, Haryana, Andhra Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. Few states they have selected, few areas they have selected, and then they gave them the high yielding variety seeds, provided them with irrigation, pesticides, fertilizers, chemicals, and everything was provided to them. So it was a great success of the Green Revolution, wherein the country was able to produce more than what was expected, and immediately India became a self-sufficient country. That is what you call it as the Green Revolution. And after that, India became self-sufficient, and till today, we don't have any scarcity of food also. And one more important thing we talk about is that the government of India also comes up with something called as MSP, minimum support price, we call it as. Minimum support price is that where the government will announce that the government will be purchasing the rice at so and so price. That means the farmer already knows that if he grows rice or wheat, he will be getting that much of price. So the Green Revolution was supposed to be a most important aspect. The objective is, why did they go for Green Revolution? Maybe you may get an MCQ answer. What is the objective of Green Revolution is that to overcome the problems of food shortage. As I told you that we had food shortage, then hunger, undernutrition, and malnutrition. These are the four concepts. Naturally, when you don't eat food properly, these are the other things. Hunger is there, then you eat. If the hunger is there, or if you're not eating the food, like we say that basic necessities of life are 2 square meals per day. What do you mean by 2 square meals per day? Is that which is content, where the person is able to have one dal, one vegetable, and also nutritious food. When you talk about one dal, one sabji, and also one yogurt or something like that, if you're able to have, that means that is called as a proper diet. So in those days, because there was food shortage, it led to scarcity and people did not have food to eat. So it led to undernutrition and malnutrition. So in order to overcome all these, the government of India hope that this new agricultural strategy will help in effective utilization of agricultural resources in the country. The problem is that India had the good agricultural land was there. Only thing is that you have to use it in a proper manner. If you are able to use it, then you will be able to achieve it. So they introduced this Green Revolution so that they wanted to increase the standard of living of the people. See, one thing is that if your hunger is satisfied, then only your mind will work for anything. Then only a person will think of doing something else. So the first concept is try to satisfy the basic necessities of life, especially food. So when you have the food, person's mind will work and naturally his productivity will increase. He will contribute his job, by which the jobs will be created, production will be increased, production increases, income increases, if income increases, salaries increases, per capita income increases, and standard of living of the people increases. All these are called as chain reactions. So the government aimed that it will be able to raise the standard of living of the people and eliminate agricultural poverty, especially in the rural areas. We all know that the people living in the rural areas are in dire poverty. So if this green revolution is introduced, if agriculture will prosper, definitely the farmers also will prosper and agricultural poverty will come down, and also to eliminate agriculture as a bottleneck in the economic development of the country. When you take the GDP of the country, we take the three sectors: the primary sector, the secondary sector, and the tertiary sector. The contribution of these three sectors will be called as the economic development of the country, by which you can gauge a country's development. But whereas at that particular period of time in our country, agriculture was the main problem, where its contribution was totally less. We were importing food from other countries, which is considered to be a wrong thing. When you import from something other countries, that means you are paying the money. So instead we can produce ourselves, then agriculture will contribute to the GDP of the country. So in this way, the hybridization, that means how did they start? They started with millets in 1960, wheat in 1963-64, and paddy in 1965. You can make note of the years. So the green revolution was first introduced for the crop of millets in 1960. Wheat 1963-64, paddy was in 1965. Okay, and this became fully operational in the Kharif season of 1965-66. So when did the green revolution actually began? Is in the Kharif season of 1965-66. So millets is 60, wheat was 63-64, paddy was 65, and the hybridization or hybrid farming were fully operational in 1965-66, and this strategy which was introduced was called as the green revolution, and it was a tremendous success and achieved substantial agricultural progress, and India became a self-sufficient country in producing the food grains to the country. The net sown area increased, the double cropped area increased. That means they started growing two crops. As such, tremendous progress has been made in irrigation sector, because the government took up the construction of number of multi-purpose projects. You talk the Nagarjun Sagar project or the Pakranangal project, Hirakud project. These are all the big projects that the government of India has taken in order to provide water to the agricultural farms as such. And the per hectare yields also increased. For every hectare, you could find a rise for crops like paddy, wheat, jowar, bajra, which are all called as the staple diet or food of the Indians. Because if you take Rajasthan, Himachal Pradesh, Gujarat, and all those areas, bajra and millets is their staple food. Earlier, even in our country also, now because of the coronavirus, all these are coming out nowadays. We are also started eating ragi, bajra, jowar. All these have come into existence, because once upon a time, these were the main things. But nowadays, farmers have forgotten cultivating these millets like ragi, bajra, jowar, and they are only concentrating on paddy and wheat. Now, India has become self-sufficient. We are overflowing of paddy, we are overflowing of wheat. Now the government is requesting the farmers to cultivate more of millets, because millet production is getting low. Why they don't produce millets is that because the MSP is very less for them. What is MSP, I said? What is MSP?
Minimum supporting price.
Very good. Minimum support price. The minimum support price is not there. The government does not announce MSP for jowar, millets, or whatever it is. So that's why the farmers do not grow. But now the government is requesting the farmers to stop growing paddy and wheat and go for these millets, because the poor people, that is a lower state of the society, will consume more of millets. So they are not getting that. So now they want to increase that also. Okay. And then after that, we find that because of this, there are also a number of crops that have come into existence, cereals, pulses, all these have come into existence as such. Then the next important topic we talk about as far as agriculture is concerned is, okay, these are all fine. We are talking about green revolution and all that. But the most important thing we talk about is what are the land reforms that the government of India has to do. That means after independence. Now, you must have had an idea in history. When you talk about history, Wellesley, Lord Wellesley was the Governor General who introduced something called as subsidiary alliance. Okay, under which we find that the entire land was divided into three systems. Can anyone tell me what are the three systems we had in history? Zamindari system, Rayatwari system, and the Mahalwari system. Did you hear these names, students? Did you hear these names? Zamindari system, Mahal. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Zamindari system, Mahalwari system, and the Rayatwari system, under which the land was put under one particular person, and he will be collecting the taxes from the farmers and giving it to the Britishers, by which he will be getting some commission. So it was like monopolization. So after independence, the government of India has to change these systems. So they came up with the concept called as land reforms were brought about, under which they tried to give the tiller, what is that sentence I forgot? Land to the tiller. Land to the tiller is a main concept of land forms. That is, whoever will be tilling the land, he becomes the owner of the land. So land reforms was the main focus. And what are the land reforms is that in those days, the zamindars used to have about hundreds and hundreds of acres of land, because under the Rayatwari system, under the Britishers, these people have amassed so much of land. That means the farmers could not pay the tax or something like that. They used to take away the land. Like that, they have accumulated some hundreds and hundreds of acres of land. So under the land reform, the government has brought about something called as Land Ceiling Act. It brought about an act called as the Land Ceiling Act. Under the Land Ceiling Act, the government said that an individual person can have only so many acres of land. So whatever extra land is there, they have to give it to the government. This is the rule. But every law will have its own loopholes. Even this law also had a loophole. What did the government say? Whatever extra land is there, you please give it to the government. So what did these zamindars and all these rich landlords they did is that they started writing the land on their children, their grandchildren, great-grandchildren. That means they wrote the land for generations together. The law is that once you write a land on some person, you cannot take the land. So that land was a failure. That act itself was a failure. They could not implement the reforms properly as such. Shailja, I think there are only 2 minutes left. Should we leave and come back?
Yeah, we'll do
Yeah.
that. We'll do that. Yeah.
Yeah, only 2 minutes.
Please join again. Please join
Yeah.
again.